far you have come on your own, but never alone. Through the rain and through the shine, here's your moment, it's your time. You stood tall and now you see, standing in your destiny. 100 women growing strong. 100 women where you belong. You stood tall and now you see, you have reached your destiny. Woman, woman.
As people of African descent, we offer this land recognition in solidarity with the indigenous peoples of Turtle Island in the efforts and deliberate intentions toward decolonization. As people of African descent, we acknowledge the land of Turtle Island that sustains us, express deep gratitude to its indigenous peoples, and pledge to honor our dignity and divinity that ultimately connects us all. By Kay Johnson. Welcome to 100 ABC Fireside Chats. 100 Accomplished Black Canadian Women is a bold project initiated by co-authors and co-founders, the Honorable Dr. Jean Augustine, Dr. Denise O'Neill Green, and Donna Jones Simmons. Our mission is to celebrate and archive the professional accomplishments of trailblazing Black women from all across Canada. The goal is to create an ever-expanding database available for current and future generations via print media, public and private libraries, as well as our website, which is www.100abcwomen.ca. In addition to our fireside chats on topics that matter to our communities, such as education, healthcare, entertainment, creative arts, trade union, and so much more, we offer biennial book launching galas and biannual symposiums. The co-authors and co-founders would like to take this opportunity to thank each of you for attending today's fireside chat. We know that you will find these sessions educational and inspirational. So sit back, relax, and hear from our brilliant and talented honorees.
Wow, how incredible was that? I am very excited to be here moderating this amazing conversation, 100 ABC Women. Before we begin this incredible discussion with our esteemed panelists, let me introduce myself. My name is Galila Mast, and I am the Regional Manager of Black Community Business Development at TD Bank. I lead our Black customer strategy in Western Canada, and I'm passionate about empowering our community. And this discussion, hits home for me. At TD, we're proud to support 100 ABC Women in their impactful work and the conversations that they bring, similar to this one. I would like to proceed and introduce our amazing guest speaker, esteemed guest, Camille Isaac Morrow. We have Camille Isaac, Morel is a business leader with career in health insurance and social sector. Having witnessed the adverse effect of caregiving on employees, she has advocated for enhanced employee benefits and programs to support the sandwich generation. Wow, incredible. Welcome, Camille.
Thank you.
Well, let's get started on this concept of sandwich generation. What is meant by it? Can you unpack it for us?
Okay, the sandwich generation. First of all, thank you for the introduction. And I'm very, very passionate about this whole issue of caregiving. And this is where the sandwich generation fits quite neatly and appropriately in any conversation about caregiving. The sandwich generation are persons who are still engaged in the workforce for the most part. They are raising their own families, their own family responsibilities are still with them. But at the same time, they're taking care of seniors or elderly parents. So they are sandwiched or in between two generations that they are responsible for.
And you know what? And I felt that, I take care of my parents and I've got two young children. What is the cost of this? What does it mean in that sense?
Okay, so what we're talking about with the sandwich generation and caregiving from any perspective here in Canada is you're looking at the unpaid healthcare system, quite frankly, and or the unpaid work that is being done that's not accounted for necessarily within the GDP or any of those macro statistics that we see. So in a
And you've got
recent
some stats for us too, I
yes,
heard.
yes, a recent statistics published by the Canadian Centre for Caregiving Excellence said that Canadians spent 5.7 billion hours unpaid caring for whether it's elderly parents or children at the same time. And many of these persons spending the 5.7 billion unpaid hours of work each year, they are struggling to balance the demands of care for both generations as well as the paid work that they have to do. As of 2018, I saw Statistic Canada said that 1 in 4 Canadians cared for family members or friends who were aging and had long-term care conditions. And those persons are also taking care of their own family responsibilities with spouses and children.
Wow, that's incredible. The number of hours. And I mean, I know we're going to touch on the cost of that. I mean, that just means, when I think about myself, I'm working, I'm a mother, and then, you got to look at families. Is it different for the Black community?
I would say that it is. I haven't been able to identify statistics from our Black community. But there's one thing that we all agree on, regardless of whether we're from Africa, the Caribbean, the United States, or Canada. Black people do not outsource family care of their seniors or their children. And on top of that, there's this mentality, whether rightly or wrongly, that it's always the women in the family that should take on the caring responsibility, regardless of whether or not they are adequately resourced to do so. The decision is never whether, well, we have a brother and a wife who are dinks, meaning double income, no kids. We don't automatically think that they're in the best position to take on the additional responsibility of aging parents. It's always the daughter or some other female relative who is required to take on those, by default, that type of responsibility. And we need to be very, very aware of this, The world has changed. We're not disrespecting our elders when we decide to ask for professional help, but we have to be practical, because I'm sure we're going to get into the conversation about the effect that all of this has, not only on the caregiver, but also on the economy, the professional advancement that we have made. We can discuss that. But those
Yeah.
are the two things. We don't outsource and we default to women.
Yeah. And you know
Yeah.
what? And I love that you touched on this. And so often it is the daughters or the women that are normally stepping in to say, you know, I got to take care of my parents. How do you approach this subject of sort of needing that family support or family help?
From my experience,
Yeah.
um, there's a lot of initial resistance. I'm going to give you my own story, as this may be helpful to other people. My mother, when my father was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, oh, it's not a problem. He's a model patient. She could take care of him. Yeah. What happened was she ended up in the hospital. Okay. Um, within minutes of her life.
Wow.
And what had to happen was I told her that love and all of that is not the issue here. We need professional intervention. She said, okay, let's try that for a bit. And we got a practical nurse to come in on a schedule. The way how I had to handle this was to make her see the benefit and make her feel that it was her idea. So that worked in my particular situation. It These are tough conversations that have to be handled gently, and you've got to also be very emotionally intelligent with the way in which you're dealing with the caregiver, so that they feel that you're not telling them that they're not doing a good job, but that they can be there to help, but they need professional help to do certain things and how it's going to benefit their health at the same time. These are tough conversations. And then we get into issues of finances and can we afford this? And is my life savings going to run out and all of that? But, you know,
Oh, you know what? We're going to touch on that, but I really want this to be a very collaborative conversation. So I will open it up to any questions that anyone has from the group of attendees. If you would like to ask a question, please unmute yourself.
I think Faith has a question. Her hand is raised.
Perfect. Hi, Faith.
Hi, good afternoon, ladies. I love
afternoon.
this conversation. What do we call it? The extended family back in the days, right?
Yeah.
And yes, I remembered my grandmother living with us, and to a point where, we took care of her. I loved having my grandma around. She was just a big source of encouragement growing up. Grandmother is like a mother, she replaces that. So that was really sweet. Now, I guess I was young, so I wouldn't say I had the responsibilities, but my aunts, the ladies, the two daughters were responsible for her. She would ask, like for us, for me, because I was the eldest grandchild, to read her Bible to her because she enjoyed that, cut her toenails for her. I mean, I'm thinking about, can I ask my granddaughter to cut my toenails later on? Because it's a totally different mindset. So grandma lived with us for quite a while before she eventually went into a nursing home. And even when she was in the nursing home, I can remember there was not really a moment where she was alone, because it's not a traditional way that we do things. We have our families, we have our grandparents at home, our mothers at home, our fathers at home until they retire, death, right? So she had us around her always, because I think that's what made her actually, it made her go on, lived longer. She was happy, she was contented. But today, the way the world is, a nursing home is kind of scary, because I've been into the space a few times with other colleagues visiting their parents, and it's like, oh my gosh, I said to my kids, I don't want to be in a nursing home. I would rather be in my own home, someone coming in and taking care of me. I don't want to go there, as well as they need to be supervised, the staff, because it's not the same. People were more nurturing and caring then. Today it's not the same, and you see that. So you got to be very conscious. You got to be, either it's someone that if your parents need that support, and monitor them. And I guess today too, you got to put cameras in the homes
Yeah.
just to ensure that they're not abused, because they've given us so much.
Mm-hmm.
And it's our time to basically give back to them. And it's very challenging because some of them get to a stage where they're like children. And what do we do and how do we manage that? Yeah, so it's a big responsibility, and it can be tiring at times, but we have to know when to say, take a break, get someone to give us some help, a helping hand, because it will help us. And there's no shame, because we have a
Yeah.
lot of pride as a people. We
I
do.
love
We're very
that.
prideful people. Yeah, so thanks for allowing me to share. But
Yeah. Thank you
it's
for sharing. Thank you
yes.
for sharing. I think it really confirms that, we do have big family beliefs and we love our families. We want to be able to support. I think this discussion is just key. And I think it's also important, while we do want to support. I'm a banker, and I think that planning, especially when it comes to that financial impact, and then we're going to touch on other impact. I'm going to ask you, Camille, around financial impact, because I mean, there's a cost to this. We were discussing earlier, so many cultures rely heavily on this, like it's mandatory almost. And so other cultures do it differently, in that maybe they share resources, they sell everything and give it to the child. Whereas in our community, maybe that's not always the practice. How comfortable are you in having, first and foremost, that sort of that finance, like, so I'm going to talk about the parents separately to the children, because I think when we start talking about the sandwich generation, there's the parents that we look after, and then there's the kids that we look after. So if you can touch on, how comfortable are you in talking about estate planning with your parents? And then how comfortable are you in setting expectation with children that so often could be home for a long time now, because I mean, costs of housing and so on. But at the same time, how comfortable are you in asking them, either to share rent payments and so on?
Well, I really can speak. I'm going to speak from my experience.
Yeah,
My
no, this
parents
is
were,
all experience.
yes, okay. My parents were very organized. Okay. I guess you can tell from my accent that I wasn't born here. My parents were living in Jamaica. And so the caregiving issue for me became a bit complicated because I had to keep monitoring what was going on down there. They eventually passed away. I cannot stress enough the importance of financial planning. Yes, there is a concern that when a person like my father with Alzheimer's, he lived 10 years with it. You wonder if they're going to keep how much longer this is going on, and at what point are you going to exhaust all of your financial resources. I agree that you have that, but I cannot stress enough the importance of financial planning, because when my father passed away and when my mother passed away, my sister and I basically knew where to go, what to, and we just signed whatever checks were needed for the funeral or for home care and all of that, because it was all planned before. So I cannot stress the importance. I want to just mention something else too, that I saw where a lot of us in the Black community, we go to a lot of churches that tell us about tithing and giving 10%. One of the problems that one of the issues that I find is that we're not teaching people how to deal with the other 90%. We're not teaching people how to budget, how to manage their resources effectively, and how to be good stewards of what it is that we have been given, by God from I'm speaking to people who have that more religious perspective. We have to have these conversations around money, and we need to have them early. As parents get older, we need to make them, you need to discuss this before illness and challenging situations step in. We have to start discussing how would you, mom, want to be cared for? Where would you want to be, to spend the latter days of your life? Who would you want to manage your finances? Whose name is on the bank account? But you have to broach these conversations from the point of view that it's benefiting your parents for us to have the conversation. See what I mean?
Yeah.
Rather than coming across as I'm trying to take over or tell you what to do. I'm trying to help you so that your wishes are respected for the later years in your life. That's the approach that has to be taken. And we do need to really have a lot of these conversations in our churches or community groups, in our, and I see you, Galilia, you are in the banking field. We need to continue to reach out to have these conversations and let people feel comfortable about discussing financial planning, not just living from day to day. But the parent needs to be part of the conversation and needs to be told how it's going to benefit them, so their wishes are respected. Yeah.
I agree. I think some of the things that I see is that so often that's not the case. So often we think that, those type of conversation, when we don't make those kind of conversation a priority, the reality is if you go, if someone passed away, for example, and you go into a bank, that bank will not give you any information on that individual. And so first and foremost, having a will directive, and I love what you touched on, is that it is their wishes that you're trying to honor. And so that's one piece of it, is just really having the right documentation. The other piece is, I love what you touched on, the budgeting, and I love how you called it, what God, the God steward or good stewards of what we have been given. That's the other 90%. And I do a lot of work with financial literacy, talking about budgeting and really trying to figure out what money do we have coming in, what money do we have going out. I think it's really, really important to do that, not only with our parents, also especially if we're in a care position, and then as well with our children. Again, I'm always like, I have, there's this joke, I'm a banker, if you have not planned that. So my daughter started working at 15 because I really wanted her to start managing her own money. When she says, I want this, what, if I don't feel like it's something that's necessary, I don't have to buy it. You have your own money, save, a specific portion, the rest you can spend freely. And so I think these type of conversation, if we don't know what they are, there's lots of resources right now, especially within the Black community. There's so many different organizations, amazing organizations, talking about budgeting and saving tools, or talk to your bank. Take your child, go to the bank and say, can you talk to them about savings? Can you talk to them on how it works? And then when it comes to parents, I think it's really, really important that we continue to have that estate planning discussion. What does it mean? What are some of the resources that are out there for us to be able to leverage, so that we can actually do this? Because we want to do this and can do this as maybe very different things. There's a cost to this. So tell us, Camille, if I can ask you some of the costs of this. What does it mean to the individual, to the maybe should we touch on maybe employer? Like, what are some resources
Well,
that are available?
before we get to the employer, I just wanted to say that love is important, and taking care of parents is you know, it's not it's not a put down on the person who says I need help and they're going to pay for professional help. What I think we should be looking at first is making sure that there's a regular schedule of support available. If there is government support, for example, we have the CLSC, we call them here in Quebec, where we have healthcare workers who come in maybe once or twice a week to help with very light household chores, but also personal care. There's that. And I really don't want to quote any pricing here because
Yeah.
I just
And
don't.
different
What I'm
products.
saying is that it doesn't mean that you're hiring somebody 24/7. I'm saying that that extra 3 or 4 hours per week where somebody comes in and gives the person, washes the person's hair, sees that their medications are properly, that makes a huge difference in terms of relieving the stress and strain on the caregiver, the person who's taking care of their own children and their parents. Okay?
Yeah.
So you start with that, and then we can get into the whole area of the employer benefits
Support, yeah.
plans.
Yeah.
This is where I want to just firstly point out that the economy is losing $1.3 billion in productivity because of absenteeism, people taking time off from work to take care of a senior or handling or juggling caregiving responsibilities. And persons who are taking care of parents, particularly those with dementia or neurocognitive issues, and that's a huge thing that's coming because we have more than 600,000 people in Canada living with dementia. Okay, wow. So I'm just telling you, it's supposed to go to 1 million in another 6 to 7 years. So I'm just saying that taking care of somebody with dementia, which is something that most sandwich generation persons are dealing with, is even more taxing than taking care of persons with other non-dementia related diseases, right?
Yeah.
And persons who are in the sandwich generation are at an increased risk of various health problems, including cardiovascular problems, lower immunity, poorer immune response to vaccinations, slower wound healing, higher levels of chronic conditions like diabetes, arthritis, ulcers. These have been studied and documented for persons who are in the sandwich generation and persons who are taking care of persons living with dementia. So the demand, and these persons are more likely to be absent from work. So a person in the sandwich generation, yes, they are somewhat relieving the healthcare system by not institutionalizing their parent in the hospital or in a long-term care facility. And even then, when the person is in a long-term care facility, if you are named as the primary caregiver outside of you are the one who's always on call, you see, even if you're not providing direct care. So that also creates a lot of strain and stress. Now, where employers need to step in on this.
Sandra, before you get into the employer and what we can do ourselves to be able to help with this stress and impact that we're going to have, I know there was a couple of questions or a couple of people. Sandra, do you still have a question?
No, in fact, I wanted to respond to your question concerning what does it cost to provide that care.
Perfect.
One of the hats that I wear, I am a surveyor for Accreditation Canada, and I assess agencies that provide home care to, mainly elderly, our seniors, as well as those who have other issues. So I'll just share with you the average cost for providing care at home versus long-term care. And I'll divide that into three different bundles. So the first bundle is, and the reason why I wanted to share this as well is the fact that we talked about financial planning as being so important. It's very expensive to even for care at home as well as long-term care. So the first bundle, just around help around the house, for instance, 3 visits a week, 3 hours of work, meals and housekeeping, medication review and reminders, something as small as that. On average, it's a monthly, it's between $1,600 and $2,000. So on a 5-year estimate, that could be between 96,000 and 120,000. And that's just simple, basic help. Now, daily support living, 5 visits a week, 4 hours per visit. That includes help around the house, assistance with activities of daily living. It's also called ADL. The patient may have some chronic condition, and simple exercise and activities. And again, this is at home, having a PSW come in. It's between 3,600 and $4,500 a month to an average of 216,000 to 270,000 for a 5-year period. And then the final bundle in this home category, nursing care and intense support. So at least 35 hours of caregiving, 4 hours of nursing care, 2 to 4 times weekly. That includes medication administration and all the support for daily activities is between $7,000 and $9,000 a month to 438,000 to 552,000 over a 5-year period. Now, those 3 bundles I shared, this is care at home. For those who have to go to, some form of assisted living, the average 5-year cost is between $390,000 and $1 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is
So it's not
incredible.
easy and it's not cheap. And again, there's a big discourse, the aging at home strategy as well. What could we do to live at home for as long as we can and as healthy as we can, again, to avoid these exorbitant costs. And last, I wanted to share, you mentioned that there are amazing organizations out there providing education around financial literacy, etc. Um, but I have to share as well, we are as a Black community recognizing the cultural differences, for our seniors as well. And more recently, I had the pleasure of assessing 2 Black-owned agencies providing amazing care out there to our community. And what I liked about those 2 agencies, again, they try their endeavor best to match the care provider to the clients or the patients at home. So I remember going to one client's home. She's Jamaican, her PSW is Jamaican. They were having fun, talking the local Jamaican language. The food that she cooked was all, Jamaican dishes, etc. And when I interviewed the family as well about the care provided by the agency and their relationship, etc., in fact, the son said he could not continue working without the support that he's getting from that agency. He has apparently he had 2 or 3 other agencies before, but they were missing that whole, cultural sensitivity, connection with his mom. So we are getting there. We need more of us providing this type of service, but I just wanted to share as well, we are having an impact out there for our Black communities. Thank you for that time.
Thank you, Sandra. That was really, really impactful share on the financial cost of these services that are provided. And I mean, you know what, and I love the fact that you touched on the healthy aspect of it, right? And so what do we need to do? And I think that's a different conversation. How do we maintain self-care? But I think one of the things, Camille, I want to ask you, so fully knowing this, what should our employers do? What are some things that we can look into that are available from our employers?
Before I answer the question, I just really want to thank Sandra for bringing that up. There's something, this is a very hard point for many of us, but we're going to also have to assess as Black people and with our different cultural differences, if our cultural practices, how do we fit them into, or how do we adjust them into the changing world scenario that we're living in right now? We live in a world where the family is not 5 minutes away, and we're in very urbanized locations. People are living in different countries, family members. We have to assess our cultural practices and see what we retain or how we can adjust or adapt them to this reality that we're living in. That's a very delicate and sensitive topic, but we have to really look at that. Okay, so what can employers do? The first thing is, I believe that employers need to clearly define the problem, or we need to be very vocal about caregiving and the sandwich generation. If you don't name a problem, you don't define it, you can't address it. Here in Quebec, we have a minister in the Ministry of Health, a deputy minister in the Ministry of Health that is specifically responsible for caregivers and listens to the voice of caregivers and people who are in the sandwich generation. So we're trying here to adjust and address caregiving issues from a health policy point of view. I would encourage all of us on this call and beyond to use whatever platforms that we have to advocate for governments to pay attention to the needs of seniors, not just as a file, but as a specific portfolio, and caregiving as a specific portfolio, because the population is aging. You're going to have more seniors than younger people in the years to come. And the caregivers of tomorrow are the youth of today. They're going to be impacted, okay? So we have to, from a policy point of view, name the issue, discuss it, lobby for governments to put in place specific policies and persons responsible for healthcare. And then coming from that, we sensitize and make employers aware and insurance companies that are providing benefit plans aware of these issues. It's important for employers to realize that there is much at stake when the needs of caregiving employees are not addressed. There's reduced productivity, increased absenteeism, and disability, which means that the employer is paying from his pocket through benefits plans for persons who are on disability and having to rehire other employees. You have to, in these situations, discuss not only the person who is the caregiver, but the benefit or the impact that it has on the employer and their situation. So they realize they have a stake at it. So the work from home and the hybrid model may be an attractive option, which I would advocate, but with offering caregiving employees hybrid work options, the employee sometimes becomes invisible to the employer, and sometimes there are mental health issues that the person is experiencing because of the exhaustion of working from home, caring for children, looking out for parents, and the employer doesn't really see that. So what we need to do is that make sure that the employee benefits plans tailor to support caregivers. So we destigmatize mental health issues in the workplace, because mental health issues like depression and exhaustion and burnout are common or prevalent among persons who are caregivers. So we should enlist the employers in the benefits plan should enlist the support of employee assistance programs to promote awareness and education about caregivers' mental health. We should have telehealth services where you have hotlines where employees can access advice and care suggestions and support through their benefits plans. We should also invest heavily in preventive care, so that employees can be reimbursed for things like diet, nutritional plans that, to support their health, screening for diabetes, dementia, hypertension, people with chronic conditions. A lot of emphasis should be also placed in benefits plans on providing benefits and reimbursements for preventive care. So there's also the other thing that I would suggest is flexible time and work arrangements. There are some jobs that can be job shared. We would ask employers to consider a person, two persons doing the same type of job. We could have job sharing and flexible schedules for some type of work that can be carried out by more than one employee. Paid time off for employees who care for aging parents, particularly in the end stages of life. Daycare support for and after school support benefits for parents with young children. Those are just some suggestions. I think maybe some persons in the audience might want to add some other suggestions.
Camille, you've given us so much to consider, and I love that you said name it, and I think it's so important for us to get involved and advocate. These are, our generations that are experiencing this. And and Faith, I'm going to come to you just shortly. And I love the fact that you said, mental health piece of this. And we don't so often, especially in the Black community, we don't often like to discuss that, but it is that burnout. It's the fact of trying to manage all of these things. We started this conversation saying it's the ability of someone to manage all these different things that they have going on. And I know for myself, it is a matter of, I probably need an extra 24 hours to be able to do all the things that I set out to do. So that causes, burnout. And we so often try to stay strong and, we can do it because that's how our upbringings are. And so, but I have seen changes even within my organization. There's so much that's available, so many resources, even with existing organizations that individuals could take advantage of. You touched on, benefits for healthcare. Some of those things are available within organizations. So my recommendation is absolutely, if you're working, have a look at some of these organizational benefit in health and spending that they may have. Faith, you go ahead. Sorry, I made you wait.
Thank you so much. It was such a beautiful, I'm enjoying this conversation. I'm literally folding up baby's laundry while I'm listening, my grandbaby. However, we have to be so careful today, because one of the things that I've noticed is that there are so many agencies that are out there, And selecting the right person to care for your family member is so critical. I can recall about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I had a car accident and I needed support. And yes, I'm not retired. However, having this car accident, I wasn't able to do a few things. And so I was assigned a caregiver from an agency. And I told them specifically what I needed. I don't need someone to shower me because I'm not at that stage where I cannot. What I need is someone to help me with, a few house chores, more so the bathroom. And this young lady came the morning and she looks like me. And I told her exactly what I needed. And she turned to me and she said, I can't do that. I am not here for that. And I said to her, well, you're not here to give me a bath or to wash my hair because I don't need any of that. So we have to be, sorry about the dog making a noise. I'm gonna come back because there's just too much noise in the background. Okay, I will pop up, but I just have to be careful of who we're bringing into our homes to take care of our families because seniors are so impressionable and they want that extra love and care. And if they're not getting it, it's going to create some problem. And sometimes they don't tell us as to what's going on because they're also scared. They don't want to be left alone. So we got to be careful as to who we're bringing to take care of our own. So that's what I wanted to share. We have to be careful. We have to know what's going on out there.
I love that. I love that you
Thank
said
you.
that. And and it's interesting because sometimes they do not share that with us. My dad was in the hospital once, and it's interesting. He couldn't say this is what this person did to me, but he was so rude to them because as soon as he felt this energy of just not helpful, with his, people that were there to help him, he just would act as soon as that person was kind or just really just took their time because he just wanted that connection. And so then he would calm down. And so these type of things, yeah, different individuals. Obviously Sarah's in that same industry, so maybe she can give us a little bit of clarity around what people can do and what people can't do. But Camille, if I could finish off this conversation and then kind of go from there and discuss any other questions that everyone has. What are some things that you do to manage again stress? Really be taking care of yourself.
Okay, so one of the most important things that we have to do is, and I'm still struggling with this, is finding time each day to set an appointment each day with myself to care for my own health. And I think everybody needs to prioritize that. The problem with persons in the sandwich generation is that gradually over time they no longer engage in physical exercise. Their eating deteriorates. The quality of their sleep and all of this deteriorates. We have to prioritize these things. It's one thing for a person to give you advice, but you yourself have to be very clear on your need for self-care. You also have to be very clear on with other people about what your needs are. So a person who is taking care of their own family and their parents has to be clear with other family members that they need this amount of time for themselves, or this is what they need to, one person to spend 1 extra hour with the parent. You have to be clear about what your needs are for your own sanity. So that's one thing. I do recall reading an article where Mrs. Michelle Obama, before she became the first lady, she had her second child and she had applied for a job. She told the prospective employer, she actually brought her baby in the bassinet and went to and spoke to the employer. She said, I will give you 100% of my time, but this is what I need. I need to be paid at a level where I can pay for a caregiver. My husband is out campaigning. We need to have, she was very clear about the salary that would accommodate her needs. And she was also very clear on what she was able to give to the employer and how much time off she would need to take care of her children. We need to have these conversations with employers. And more employers, I'm finding, are becoming quite reasonable with this. I strongly suggest, where possible, do not work for any organization that does not share your values or does not recognize that you have your own needs too. There's a time when you have to shut down your smartphone and you're logging off from the system. You tell your colleagues that, okay, I'll finish. You set proper expectations for the work that you do tomorrow, but this is what is going to be delivered today. We have to be very clear about our needs and set clear boundaries. And we also have to take care of our health, be very vigilant, go for a medical checkup once a year, and follow through very closely on the advice that has been given. So this is not selfishness. This is about self-care first in order for you to be caring for other people. Yeah?
Wow, that was amazing. I mean, I think that's such a good way to capture it all. I love that, you touched on so many nuggets. And I think one of the things that I've learned, especially being in this position where it's very hard for me to ask for help, but one of the things I'm learning actually from my children is that self-advocacy. The younger generation, and we can learn, not only take care of them, but I think we can learn. One of the things that they're really good at is self-advocation. They come into employment, similar to what you said, Camille. They want their values aligned. They want this many vacation days. They want this, work from home. I'm checking out at 4 p.m. Like, I am not giving my work this extra time. So they are very much, very, very good at self-advocation from the work front. I think it's so important that we continue to learn that as well. And I'm not very good at it because I sometimes struggle with that time management piece, or working hard, or just really living that purpose drive in the job that I do. But I love that you touched on really asking for help, managing time. It is not being selfish. I love that. I will open the floor. No,
Can
go
I just
ahead.
make one point? If this is of any comfort to our listeners here on this, and to all of us here, I work for an organization that has an intergenerational learning program. We pair up seniors with student volunteers, high school students at community college and university. They go into seniors' residences and teach seniors how to use iPads and tablets to stay in touch with people. The seniors also share their life experiences with the youth, and they work on creative projects together. And this, we feel, helps to reduce the incidence of cognitive decline. The key point I want everybody to remember here: without fail, whenever we get feedback from the youth as well as the seniors, they adore this program. Our young people love seniors. They want to take care of our seniors. They care about people. They're very caring and kind on the whole. And I just want to say that we need to continue to advocate for intergenerational programs. Get your young people to volunteer in seniors' residencies so they can understand aging and they can understand the challenges that seniors are facing. This prepares them or sensitizes them to the challenges their own parents are facing, taking care of them and their parents. So that intergenerational connection, let's work at it. The kids love it and the seniors love it too.
I love it. Thank you. Anyone else have any comments, question? at this time? Okay, well, you know what? I think that was such an incredible discussion. I mean, I had so many takeaways, and I was really shocked to see the cost you so eloquently shared in hours that are unpaid. But we also heard what it actually means. It's almost like, a full-time carer could range anywhere between 100,000 to $500,000 to $1 million, even if you are needing that nursing service. And these are things that we're doing, for free for our parents sometimes. And it's definitely evident. And for me, like I said, I'm heavily involved within the Black community space. We do a lot of financial literacy, and of course, what I mean by financial literacy, more so around education of we need to really understand numbers and what is the cost of this. One of the things I share with some parents is, when we're saving for our kids' education, what happens to our retirement fund? Really understand, work to navigate that, because women are living longer and longer, and being responsible not only for their adult, parents, they're also being responsible for children. It's that sandwich generation. And so really be in the know of your finances, make sure you have an advisor and all of it. And again, we talked a little bit about mental wellness, really seek the support. And I absolutely feel I would say in the last, 3 to 5 weeks, I couldn't have done my life without the support of my friends and my community, because there was just so much going on. And I think it was so important to me. I've learned to say, hey, I do need this help. And so really make sure that you look for, community around you, and then the information within those resources that we shared. And of course, if you have any question, reach out to 100 ABC Women. But thank you for having me, Camille. What an amazing discussion.
Thank you too, and thank you for the input, Sandra, Faith, Sarah, for your questions in the chat. I really did appreciate this, and I think we will have the recording will go on YouTube, right? Yeah. So I think we should share this, because there's some of people in my social network who said they were very interested, but they wouldn't be able to make it today. So we should share this.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be shared as soon as it goes live. Faith, you had comment?
Yes, I think we should have some sort of network set up within our African community, especially, for service for our elderly. I have, for example, a nonprofit, and within my nonprofit, due to COVID, we established a food bank. So our largest population of support go towards the seniors as well, Caribbean and African seniors. And we also have a program where they enjoy connecting, coming together. We don't want to keep them at home feeling lonely, isolated, and so forth. So we need to know who are the agencies out there within our communities that can support. So a database, I think, is so critical, and giving them an opportunity to live life. They need to live life because they've put out so much when they had to take care of us or their children, and we tend to not remember how they were. So we need to make sure that their last days on the earth is one that they will enjoy, whether it's they like to dance, whether they like to have tea parties, or just getting together and chatting up with someone. We need to ensure that we are doing these things. So we need to have that network.
I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing, Faith.
You're welcome. Thank you for
Absolutely. I'm all
having
about
us.
community and network.
Yes. Awesome. I like that ACB network of caregivers. Yes, Sarah, I love that. Yes. Let's make it happen. Camille,
Thank
you
you
were
so much.
great.
I think,
Thank you.
Dawn, over to you, or we can conclude at this point.
You have come on your own, but never alone. Through the rain and through the shine, here's your moment.